Go. Well, hello there, and welcome back once again. It's been a while since we all got together here. I apologize for that, but sometimes life gets in the way, and it's been kind of crazy. So I appreciate you coming and seeing what's going on. And to be honest, there's so much that we could talk about. I mean, you look at a news feed, and there's all sorts of stuff going on in this world, and a lot of craziness. But actually, what I was going to talk about today, it's kind of been on my heart for a while, and I'm thankful that I'm finally getting this done. The piece that I'm talking about started in May, and as you know, many of you know anyway, that Marge and I had spent several years in California, just hanging out there with family, doing ministry. I was teaching at a community college, and so I continued to try to keep up at least a little bit on the news from California, what's going on, and that sort of thing. And so back in May, I saw an article, and it was about the sectional track meet in Southern California. The state of California is divided into sections, and then they basically, it's kind of a playoff system to get to the state track meet. And so there was a trans female athlete that was obviously doing really well in the long jump, and there were a couple of events that this athlete was participating in and doing very well. And it kind of raised a ruckus, as those sorts of things tend to do right now in our culture. And so the governing body in California, the CIF, which is the organization that administers California's high school interscholastic sporting events, took notice of the fact that there was some concern about what was going on in the sectionals, because the next step was a state track meet, and they were trying to avoid or trying to make an effort to try to impart some fairness, because in the sectional there were several girls. Obviously, if the trans athlete was at the top of the podium, then the female athletes were kind of all bumped down one, because there was a trans athlete that had knocked the now second place off of the first place, and all of that. And so the CIF decided that they were going to allow some of those athletes that didn't make the podium or didn't make the cut for the state tournament. They were going to allow them to compete in the state tournament if they had been bumped down due to a trans athlete winning. So they made this kind of funky ruling, but they made it. At least they tried to do something right. So one of the things that I noticed I haven't noticed a lot of in this whole thing about whether biological males who identify as females should be allowed to compete against girls, I have not seen a lot of response from female athletes. Just haven't seen a whole lot of the high school variety. And so there are some videos out there. There is some that has been made available. So I thought I would show some of those. Let's listen to what these girls have to say about competing. This first video is some of the girls from the California state track meet that had to compete against this trans athlete. So we're gonna play.
Just kind of sad and just like watching, like he's obviously a really talented athlete. Like we can all see him jump and stuff, but and I wish him the best in luck and everything that he does, but in a boys division, it's pretty obvious the certain advantages that he has. And it's just sad as a woman to watch that and have kind of I feel bad for the person in second place because they probably worked really hard to get where they are. And it's just something that they can't probably ever reach a point like that because it's really hard to get to that type of point. And so it's just like sad and it's unfair. And I just feel bad for all the girls in the rest of the event and the girls that couldn't qualify.
The audience seems like kind of like split
Mhm.
into like for and
Yeah.
against, but it definitely seemed like there was a lot more people who were fighting for us and fighting for women's sports, and there was a lot of people who were completely unaware of the situation, just finding out and saying, "Oh, that's really unfair."
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't condone the bullying, the yelling at this person. I think it's 100% on the people in authority who are allowing it to happen and not him or not this athlete. I don't want the protest to be turned against this athlete. I want it to be turned, and I think most of us do want it to be turned against the people in authority and the adults who need to stand up for us, and TIF who needs to stand up for us and stand up for female athletes in female sports.
Yeah, I feel like everyone should be treated with the same amount of dignity and respect. I think what Olivia said, this is more pointed towards the people who are in authority and who aren't really protecting us women athletes. But yeah, I feel like it comes down to just respecting the athlete, even if we don't agree. I feel like we should still just treat him with the same amount of respect we would treat any other athlete.
Yeah, I actually like spoke to him and I never said anything rude. Honestly, I just had a normal conversation with him. I genuinely believe he doesn't have a harmful intent towards girls' sports. I think it's the kind of like CIF allowing him that's kind of put him in his position that like it looks like he's trying to overtake women's sports, but I personally don't believe that. I think he's just being allowed to, and he obviously is going to take that opportunity because it's like he sees himself as a girl, so he sees like, okay, it's appropriate for me to go see or like play with the girls, and just them enabling it is like kind of giving.
And so it's very interesting as we listened to those three ladies. I think they were on maybe a Zoom call or something, and that's why they were kind of popping in and out. But it was good to hear that all three of those athletes were saying, the responsibility lies with the people that are administering this event, the interscholastic sporting events, and it's not a thing to do with the athletes, as the last young lady said. This individual is believing that he is a girl and that he's just taking the direction that he's allowed to take. And I also noticed that too, that each one of these young ladies referred to this athlete as he and not a she. Well, the one said he the first time and then just referred to the athlete as the athlete. But I thought it was great that they said that it shouldn't be anger and hatred directed at the athlete themselves, but at the people that are allowing this to happen. And a good perspective to take. I really think that is a good thing. Aside from California, there was quite a bit of news that came out of Minnesota when Champlain Park won the, what was it, the 2-4A softball championship. And they had a trans athlete on their team who was a pitcher. And amazing statistics this pitcher compiled, but is also, again, this pitcher was a biological male that identifies as female and was just striking out players right and left, and so you know, I don't believe this is fair. This is not right to have those male athletes competing against the females. In one of the articles I was reading about what was going on in Minnesota, the author of the article provided this this is from the National Institute of Health, and basically biological sex is a primary determinant of athletic performance. I think we all know that, and I think we are all aware of this. In the second paragraph here, it says, thus, for athletic events and sports relying on endurance, muscle strength, speed, and power, males typically outperform females by 10 to 30%. You know, that's pretty amazing. That much difference. And so how you can say that it's fair for this young athlete to pitch against girls when there should be, 10 to 30% more performance out of the males. This statement also talks about the sex differences in performance emerge with the onset of puberty and coincide with the increase of androgynous sex steroid hormones. And so, right in this time in their lives is when they are most, or this is starting to come on. And so, this is not something that's going to go away anytime soon. It continues to be an issue, a question that is posed. Some of the states have refused to accept the president's executive order about disallowing biological males from competing against females. And now that's starting to wind its way through the legal system, and we'll see how it goes in the end. But in the meantime, women are losing out in many instances. There was another situation in Oregon where some again in the track world, and at the state track meet, some of the athletes actually stepped off of the podium, kind of to protest the lack of fairness in the state track meet, because a trans athlete won in several events, and again, same thing that we saw in California, that it's just not right. So again, listen to what these young ladies are saying about their feelings and about how this impacted them.
I was not aware that there was a biological male on the other team until the very last meet. I would say the shock that came was the distrust and the lying. I felt very betrayed. I felt betrayed with the adults and the coaches on the other team that let this happen without my consent, without my knowledge. And my coach didn't know, my team didn't know. I don't think any of the other coaches knew. I think it was something that this coach had kind of kept below the radar because people hadn't really realized. And to be fair, the athlete was a slow swimmer, was not dominating races by any means. I think that's why people didn't notice, because he kind of just blended in with all the other girls and was doing events that weren't as popular. And I just felt a lot of distrust and betrayal by these coaches for allowing this to happen. And I felt very violated knowing that a man could have seen me changing.
I definitely experienced that anxiety and stress during the meet that I was a part of, where the transgender athlete was competing. I had found out the day before, which led to me feeling the need to scratch myself from the meet.
But yeah, the whole day I had anxiety during the meet. I was just totally confused. I didn't get to compete at the state meet, but watching my friends um, just have to compete like that in an environment that isn't fair, that was stressful in and of itself to me. Earlier in the season, I competed against a transgender high jumper, and I chose to scratch myself from that.
If it was just me doing it, I would have been much more scared. But I heard that Maddie and another one of our friends was going to stand up and not compete. And I decided to join them because I know there's power in numbers. I knew I was doing the right thing and I was proud. But as a couple hours later, as I was driving home, I just started crying and I was wondering, why am I crying? Why am I so emotional and upset about this? But I think the root issue is just the unfairness and the injustice of this. That I've done this sport for 6 years and I didn't want to have to stand out from a competition. But in the end, I'm glad that I made this decision and I knew I did the right thing.
I definitely was pretty emotional afterward. I felt a lot more comforted to have all of our family and friends there cheering us on, telling us they were proud of us. I knew I did the right thing. But like you said, it just kind of feels like this unfair, endless hole of that we're slipping into. So it was definitely emotional.
I was very nervous about it leading up to it, as well as on the podium. There were eyes on us from all over. The announcers were talking about how we had all done, and everyone was staring at the podium. And me and Reese stepped down, and there was definitely some confusion. There was definitely some anger, and just a lot of people that didn't understand why we were doing this. And it was scary. Everyone was looking at us, and we stood out from everyone else, but it was what we had to do to let everyone know that we didn't feel this was okay. I knew that I wanted to do something. I had kind of two options. I was thinking about not competing at all and scratching the event, the same as Sophia and Maddie had done previously, but decided to compete not only for myself, but for my team because this was my senior year state championship and I was seeded to get a decent amount of points for my team. So I decided to compete, but I knew that I didn't want to just stand on that podium and say that this was all okay with me and that this was fair because I really didn't feel it was. So me and Reese decided that we were going to step off the podium and say this wasn't a fair competition.
So, we listened to, in particular, the second video. They were much more open about their feelings, about the fears, the feeling that they were lied to, that there was trust broken, that there was stress about competing against a biological male. Not competing because that was your decision in an unfair situation, or the last young lady and her friend who stepped off of the podium. Do we really want to subject our daughters, our granddaughters, whoever, any young girl, to this kind of stress and emotional toll over something that should be just fun and enjoyable, in that time of your life, in your high school years, just the joy of being with your friends, competing, because some of those students will never compete in the college arena, and so high school is that place where they have an opportunity to excel. And in our culture today, we're robbing so many of them from those opportunities. And again, like I say, it's just not fair. In the state of Washington, there was also a situation in the track world. Tumwater School District, who actually was being investigated by the U.S. Department of Education, actually switched their policy to not allow biological males to compete against biological females. And so they kind of took the bull by the horns because that went against the Washington state policy, the interscholastic organization that governs competitions in Washington, still allows biological males to compete with females if they identify as a female. And so Tumwater the girls actually took time out from their class one day, and kind of in a protest, a show of strength, they gathered outside, and this is a picture of that moment where it says, "This is not a walkout. We're not going anywhere." And so the girls' track team was just took this opportunity to make a statement here, and I think that's really a powerful thing that for them to do. It may not be the most popular thing to do in some parts of the country, and but again, if we go back to what we heard some of those young female athletes from California and from Oregon talking about, the stress, the strain, the anxiety that was there, and some of them are willing to step up and say, "Hey, this is not right, and we need to do what is right." And I'm in agreement with that. I think we need to make it right. I remember myself when I was back in high school. That was about the time they passed Title IX in the first place. In the idea that women had the same rights as men when it came to sports, and that schools couldn't offer all the sporting opportunities for males and not offer anything for females. And so, it seems like we're going back the other way, the wrong way, and that's not right. So one more video before I close. This is Sonia Shaw. She is the president of the Chino Valley School Board, and she is standing up for female athletes.
And I am going to say something because I just found out something today. I got a cease and desist from a mother of an athlete because I spoke truth on my social media. I will never stop speaking truth for the community. But with that said, I got a cease and desist and served here at the district for something I did on my own social media, talking about the unfairness of boys and girls sports. We're talking about biological males in girls sports. I'm talking as a mother of 2 female athletes. I'm talking as a community member and an advocate of female athletes and people. I fight for all girls. I don't care if it's just in California, Chino, or the nation, but my job as a board member is to try to advocate for safety and fairness for our girls, not only in sports, but in their own locker rooms and restrooms. Just like when I heard that mom, I want to make sure we follow through and make sure that her child feels safe as well in regards to male and female differences. The problem that I have is I just said it was unfair and that a boy is stealing these opportunities from girls, because that's the truth. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. I also have First Amendment rights, and I will never shut up in regards to that. So this cease and desist, that's what I feel about that cease and desist. I'm telling you right now, because it does affect our community. That boy winning titles does affect our community. Right now, number 2 in the state is an Ayala female athlete. Her name is Jenna Morales, and I feel so fiercely protective over her because someone stole her first place medal, a boy. I'm sorry, that's not an attack on anybody other than she has been attacked. Our Ayala student, our Chino Valley student has had that stolen and ripped away from her. That I will go to my grave fighting for our girls. You can beat me up, you can say whatever you want, put death threats, until our girls have safety, I will not stop this fight. They deserve protection, and that's what Title IX is. You guys are all afraid of the Department of Ed that came up here earlier being dismantled. I'm sorry, less bureaucrats, less special interests having that money. Title IX will still be protected. I will make a phone call and another letter and another complaint letting on behalf of Jenna Morales today, tonight. That's my promise, that's my guarantee, and I will fight for every student, especially if they're in our...
Yeah, so she speaks her mind there, that's for sure. And I think we need more people like that. In particular, we need more people like that serving on school boards, serving in local politics. And I hope that people will heed that call and consider if that's something that they should be doing. Because if we simply do nothing, it will continue to go, because the people that are supporting these policies that deny girls the opportunities, they are running and they are winning those seats. And so I did find out just this afternoon, actually, that Sonia Shaw, the superintendent of that school district, is actually running for the superintendent of public schools in California now, in this election year. So hopefully, she could get that and help make some additional progress across the state of California. So that's all I have for today. But this just had been on my heart for several weeks now, and so I'm glad that I finally was able to get the time to get this put together and get it out to all of you. And we will see you later. Bye-bye.